Out of all of the videos that I have done over the years, some 2,000 plus, covering and spanning from virtually every common everyday subject that most of us as human beings deal with, this is one of probably several sensitive subjects to me. And it's the subject of family. Children and their mothers and fathers, or parents. But let me first say what a parent is. Sort of kind of off the subject, but not quite off the subject. You are a parent as long as you have a dependent child. A child is dependent upon you for their care. Roof over their head, sustenance of food, clothing, protection within a home. And typically children that are underage. Pardon me. But once your children become grown adults, you're no longer a parent. You're still mom, you're still dad. You're more of a counselor, an elder, someone to seek guidance from still, but not a parent in the true sense of the word parent. Because the whole idea is that from an evolutionary standpoint, evolving, is that you leave childhood and you become an adult and you're able to function independently away from your parents, notwithstanding advice and guidance, as I pointed out a second ago. But on to the subject that I'm really trying to focus on is we will use the term parent in this particular video. When your children are older and they leave home, they've left the nest, as some might say, and some of them may have even began or started their own families, and then you may have grandchildren. So what I've noticed and what I have even experienced is a disconnect. And I'll be perfectly honest, it's been that way in my family specifically. I'm not beating up on anyone. I'm just being factual. And I've seen this in many families. When the children leave and they become independent, they're on their own, they have their own families. Now mom and dad has grandchildren, maybe even great-grandchildren. But there's a disconnect oftentimes, in the sense that the children don't call mom and dad as frequently as they should, as often. And I think this is not good. They don't contact mom and dad by way of physical traveling to whatever location mom and dad is at, wherever mom and dad lives and so forth. And they don't call mom and dad, again, as often as they should. How often should they, brother teacher? I'll just simply say this. It varies from person to person and from situation to situation, but they should contact mom and dad. So whatever your specific situation is. Now, there should never be a situation when you have the means to contact your mom and your dad, children that is, and you just simply won't. Now, I'm not talking about situations where you are in a place where there's contention for some reason, maybe even a dysfunctional family. I'm not talking about that necessarily right now. I'm talking about more of a healthy situation where the children are not at odds with mom and dad, and mom and dad are not at odds with the children, where you do love one another, but you just don't communicate as you should. Does this sound familiar to you? My question is this. Children, you should never be so busy with your family that you forget your mom and your dad, who were your first family. I don't care if you live in Alaska, the other part of the world, your mom and dad are the ones responsible for you being here. And you should communicate with mom and dad on a regular basis. I can't tell you if you should contact them once a week, every day, once a month, every couple months, 6 months. There should be some form of communication with you and your mom and dad. You adult children, that is. For several months to go past, and your mom and your dad, your mother and father are living, and you have not called them to say hi, I love you, how are things going, how's your health, we haven't talked in a little while, I want to come by and see you if it's possible, or we need to plan to meet at some point if you're at a distance, especially many miles away and so forth. You need to show that you love your mom and your dad by more than just simple words. I love mom and dad. Because tomorrow is not promised to any of us, not one of us. And don't let it be said too late. Let something happen to mom and dad where they become deathly ill and pass away, and you have not done your due diligence and you have not communicated with them as you should have. You're going to have to deal with guilt. I'm just saying. I've heard someone or several someones say before, well, mom and dad can call us. Wow. How insensitive could you be? That's true. Mom and dad could call you. But guess what? Again, they brought you into the world, not the opposite. So they're responsible for you being here. You owe it to them. And I hate to even use the word owe, but just your simple duty, your most reasonable duty would be to stay in contact with your mother and your father earnestly from your heart and not feel obligated to do it just because. And don't let someone have to mention it to you that you have to communicate with your mom and your dad. It should be in you already to do that. Now, this may not be the message that some people want to hear, but it's the truth. You know, and myself, listen to me, and myself and my own family, distance has separated many of my cousins from me and my aunts and uncles over the years. And some of them have passed away. And I felt, in some respect, guilty. Now, it could just simply be ignorance. It could just be immaturity in my younger adult life, I should say. I'm older now. But I came to myself as time progressed that maybe I should initiate a little bit more, because sometimes I think we get so caught up in our own affairs, in our own world, that we just simply get caught up and we forget. And when your attention is diverted away from your origin, mom and dad, and you start your own family before you realize it, time has passed substantially. And years have passed. And you have not communicated enough. Now, my father's passed, but my mom is here. I talk to my mother virtually every other day. That's just the way it is. That's really the way it should be, because my mother is my last connection to my history. She knows my history. You know, I'm her only child remaining. And I don't feel like, well, I better do this because this might happen. No, I'm doing it because it's supposed to be done. And that's my mother. And once my mother passes, there goes my history as well. So everything that I can embody from my mother in terms of my childhood and the things that she can share and has shared with me about my family and her family coming up, I grasp it like it's the most precious gem in the world. I'm getting a little emotional because I want to really convey this message to you in such a way where it's not just simply another video, but it's one that you take to heart and that you act on today. Now, if by chance you have lost a loved one and you felt regret because you didn't communicate the way that you should have, it doesn't just have to be your mom and dad. It can be any loved one. It could be your child if you're a mom or a father. Don't let it be said too late. Now, there are situations that we have no control over. Sometimes. Distance, for whatever reason. You have family members that live very far away in other states, maybe even out of country. But don't let that be an excuse for not reaching out to your loved ones. I'm serious. As serious can be. Don't let that be your reason. Oh, they're too far away. What you just did was made an excuse, a convenient excuse for not doing, for not attempting, at least, minimally, to contact your loved ones. You know, it's easy to do that. You can go into your bag of convenient excuses just to take the responsibility away, seemingly anyway. But there is no excuse if you really love your family member. So children, again, and I'm talking to everyone, whoever your family members are, brothers, cousins, sisters, aunts, uncles, grandparents, mom and dad, you just ought to communicate today while you can. And don't let it just be on the strength of me saying it. Do it because it's the thing to do in the first place. So, I as a parent, used to be a parent, I as a father, I contact my children. And I say, how you doing? What you doing? How the children doing? So forth. May even have an occasional lunch or have them come down to see me. I initiate that. Now, they don't always initiate. I have certain children that contact me more regular than others. But I have to keep putting the bug in my children's head sometimes and say, hey, you still have a father. This is a true story. And I'm not beating up on anyone. I'm just saying. Because sometimes, as I said earlier, we can get so caught up in our own lives that we seem to forget what our priorities really should be. Your life is not that important when you forget your family. It's not. Because there lies maybe some selfishness. Whether you want to call it that or not. You're caught up in you, in your own world. But don't let it be said too late. Don't let mom and dad pass away. And then while you are amazed, you're shocked. By what? And for what? Why are you surprised when you didn't do what you were supposed to be doing in the first place? You see, the burden is not that heavy on you when you've maintained that line of communication in the first place. It's not that heavy. None of us want to see our parents pass away. And even conversely, the mom and dads don't want to see their children pass away before them. But it does happen every day somewhere. So why not communicate now? Why not children, adult children I'm speaking to, more specifically, why not give your mother and your father their flowers right now, every day, continually? As the old expression goes, while they yet live. Because when they're gone, they're just simply a memory, maybe. I just wanted to do this video to get you to think about just how precious life is, and even how short it is. None of us, not one of us, not a one of us, is guaranteed to be here tomorrow. And I see it every day. Oh, so-and-so passed away. I didn't know they were sick. It was sudden. We did not expect it, but it happened. You can see a person externally on the outside, and they're looking okay. But none of us know what's going on the inside, do we? And oftentimes when people are ill, they keep it to themselves. They don't always broadcast their medical conditions. Sometimes because of fear, sometimes because of pride. Whatever the reason is, we leave here. We leave here every single day, and none of us are going to be here forever. So while we are yet here, we need to cherish the moment. That's all I wanted to say to you. So, children, adult children, if you have not been communicating with your mother and your father, that even includes your grandmother and your grandfather, if you know them and have a relationship or had a relationship with them. If you have not been doing that, would you please start doing that right now? And if you haven't done it up until the point that you watch this video, get on the phone and call mom and dad and say, this is your daughter, your son. I just called to check on you and tell you I love you. How about that? As a matter of fact, what are you doing today? What are you doing tomorrow? I would like to come and see you. Have breakfast with you. Have lunch with you. Have dinner with you. Why? Because I love you. You're my mom and you're my dad. Think on these things, ladies and gentlemen. May Yahweh continue to bless and keep you and yours. Have a wonderful day, afternoon or evening, wherever you may be. So long.